everyone, and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today's video is one that I'm really excited for, and it is a reading vlog where I only read horror books. If you've watched my reading goals video, you will know that I'm trying to sort of find books that are guaranteed a good read for me, and to do that I feel like I need to step out of my comfort zone of fantasy and romance a little bit. And one genre I haven't explored very little, if at all, is horror. And so I set this challenge for myself to read 3 horror books and to vlog it all for you, all my thoughts and how I felt about them. And I have to say, filming this after reading the books, we had some pretty good results. So I wasn't planning on checking in so soon into this video, but I'm 57 pages into Daphne, and the horror vibes are 100% there. Some of the imagery that I'm interpreting from the writing is just creating a really uneasy atmosphere. And I think when I felt that, I made a note of it, and that was literally 10 pages ago. So I think it definitely has led up to the events that have just happened. Obviously, as this is a horror about Daphne, who is sort of this ghost story that when she's thought of, she comes to kill. And we are told that Kit's teammates vanish one by one. You're obviously expecting that. I just wasn't expecting it so soon for some reason. I didn't see it coming and the way it was set out. So this is spoiler territory, but also not. I just really need to voice this to you. So we are mostly in the perspective of Kit, and then we change to Tammy, who has also been thinking about Daphne since Natasha told this ghost story of her. So yeah, we get Tammy's perspective for a few pages, and then we go back to Kit's, and she's just being Kit. We're following her family, and then her mum gets this call about Tammy, and something's killed her. Someone has killed her, and it's just such a... it's like a shock. You shouldn't, some people are going to vanish or something's going to happen to some of her teammates, but I just wasn't expecting it at this moment, and having it right after her point of view in the book, I think is really clever and really makes you be like, oh my god, because that was me. And I don't read a lot of horror, like, at all, so this is creeping me out a little bit. But yeah, I just had to check in because I'm enjoying it. I'm creeped out, loving the writing and what the author is setting up. So I'm just here to update you on Daphne by Josh Malerman and how I'm finding it. I'm 176 pages in, so I'm very nearly finished actually. And if I don't update you now, I won't update you until I've finished it tomorrow. I'm going to try and keep this short because I just really want to get back to reading it. And then I'll do a review tomorrow. But as I previously said, from seeing Tammy's point of view, now we know what happens when we get one of the other girls' perspectives. The tension and suspense is so present. Like, I'm literally sat just like all tensed up, waiting to see what happens. And we've actually started to get the details of their deaths, which is just, it's so creepy. Especially one that's just happened, because you're sort of a bit like, what the hell is happening? How is this happening? But we've also been introduced to the detective, and she sort of gives the myth of Daphne and the killings a voice of reason, that there is a copycat out there who is a fan of the legend of Daphne. But the story and the writing and especially with Kit's diary entries that we have in here as well, makes you think that she's being oblivious almost and in denial that the legend could actually be true and Daphne is out there. But the further we get in, it's like a race against time. She's trying to find out who is killing these girls, which also adds to the tension. Something that is very prominent in this is that it is a book about anxiety. So when we're introduced to Kit, we know she's had anxiety. She's had this one pivotal moment that she references. With Kit's anxiety, the whole book is a commentary on the feeling of anxiety and that it's inescapable and creeps up on you, because it's buried deep, much like we learn is the knowledge of Daphne. So in this small town, everyone knows of her, but has suppressed thinking of her and ever mentioning her name. But then someone or something unleashes this feeling, and then it's everywhere. So it's what's happening with the legend of Daphne, but also with Kit's anxiety. And I just think it's a really great way to comment on that and comment on anxiety and the feeling of it. I think it's really cleverly done, actually. And I also think there's commentary on what you believe you should focus on compared to what the world or media tells you to focus on. There's a passage on page 133. Let me find it. About which actually references a book that one of the girls has read, Your Mind, Your Land. And I just think there's the hints there that, you know, with the news and the media so present in today's society, they kind of force what they want on you and what they want you to believe and think and talk about. But you should have your own beliefs and your own values, and you should be focusing on that, not on what people are telling you to focus on. I wasn't expecting any of this. I was just expecting a spooky horror, which I'm getting. It's very creepy at times, actually. For me, I'm a scaredy cat. But I wasn't expecting it to have these, not undertones, because the anxiety one especially is not an undertone at all. It's the main point of this book. But these notes on social aspects, I guess. I don't think that's the right word for what I'm trying to say, but all I can think about right now is finishing this. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I just wanted to check in before I read it all and then have to give all of my thoughts to you at once. I am going to go and finish this now, and then I'll check in with you tomorrow when it's finished and give a review on what I thought. But I'm loving it. Am I a horror girly now? Maybe. Maybe. I have an apology to make. I've sort of abandoned this reading vlog a little bit. So I said I would update you on Daphne with my final thoughts. I think this was like a week ago, nearing 2. I just haven't. Nor have I read much of the other 2 books for this vlog. I started Heir of Fire, and that just sort of consumed me for a good week. I've been in a bit of a book hangover since reading that, so I've not read much this week and since finishing Heir of Fire. Look at this guy. Anyway, yes, so I've sort of abandoned this vlog, so sorry about that, but I'm back into it. So, my final thoughts on Daphne. I really loved this, and out of the 3 books in this vlog, I didn't think I would love this one compared to the other 2, but I gave it a 5 stars. I just loved this so much. It had the mystery intrigue aspect and had the horror aspect. So if you do read this, there is a bit of, I guess, body horror and like gruesome bits in there. In Daphne, we follow Kit, who is a basketball player, and it's her final year before college, or she's going into her final year before then going to college or university, whatever you call it. And the night before her last big game of the season, one of her teammates tells a ghost story, and it all just unravels from there, essentially. I don't want to say too much. Quite a bit is said on the back, which I think I've already shared with you. But not only is this a horror novel, through Kit's character, we learn that she has anxiety and has been really struggling with her anxiety. The author does a really great job at portraying anxiety in the horror genre, and that is something that I would not expect from the horror genre. I'm a newbie to horror, and I didn't realise how many layers it had. I just thought it was gruesome and scary and not for me. Maybe that's just the films, or maybe the films have these layers as well, but I'm too scared to watch horror films, so that will not happen. But yeah, I just really loved this. I don't think I have much else to say on it. I think all my thoughts have already been covered in previous clips. I will say I was a bit apprehensive going into this because when flicking through, it didn't have chapters. It just switched between the plot line and Kit's diary. But it reads so quick and you get so invested in the story that I didn't even notice it didn't have chapters. Yeah, it didn't take me long to read at all, which is a sign of a good book for me when I can't put it down. I moved on to Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. This is probably the one that I thought I would enjoy the most out of the 3, and unfortunately it's the one I'm enjoying the least. This follows Rory, who has to move back to her hometown to take care of her twin sister Scarlett, as she is pregnant and needs the support. While she's away, she goes out to a bar, and on her journey back she is attacked by a werewolf. Survives, but she notices her body changing and things happening, and it turns out that the werewolf that attacked her has turned her into a werewolf. It sounds so great, but I don't know if it's just my expectations. As I said a few minutes ago, my expectations of horror is that it's just gruesome and scary. There are gruesome elements to this, especially when she goes through her first change as a werewolf. But to me, this reads like a contemporary fiction novel with hints of paranormal romance sprinkled in, because there is a love story in this, and I don't know why. I've read the back many times, and it does say this darkly comedic love story is a brilliantly layered portrait of trauma, rage, and vulnerability. But that just didn't register in my mind that it would be a main plot line, and it very much is. I just don't think it's what I was expecting from it, which is why I'm not disappointed in it, I'm just not loving it as much as I thought. One thing I am really liking about this is the commentary on body image and not being comfortable in yourself and your body. And the author has done a really great job at paralleling the twin sisters with this. So we see Rory struggling with becoming a werewolf and having to look at herself in the mirror, but only seeing this monster staring back at her, and all the changes that her body's going through with becoming a werewolf. And then on the other hand, we've got her sister Scarlett, who is pregnant and isn't actually enjoying the experience of being pregnant. She just doesn't like being pregnant. I think that's something I can appreciate. I really do appreciate that being in here, because their mum actually says, "Oh, but it's such a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful thing. It's natural." Just because it's a natural thing doesn't mean everyone should accept it and love it. Everyone experiences things like pregnancy so differently. It's not just one fit for all. So I do really appreciate that. Still good. I'm very nearly finished. I've actually been listening to this on the audiobook, and I would really recommend the audiobook for this. I'm enjoying it a lot more than when I've tried to sit down and physically read it. Yeah, I finished Such Sharp Teeth, and the last little bit that I read, for me, you can really see that the author was trying to use the werewolf aspect of this as a backdrop for comments and analogies that she wanted to make, because I found in this little bit there was an element um of female rage really come through, and I really liked it. I thought it was done really well with the backdrop of the werewolf. So I think the whole premise and concept of this is actually really clever and really well thought out with what the author wanted to say. I just personally think it's definitely a paranormal romance with that in, with horror aspects. Again, I don't know if I just have a complete different perception to what horror is, so I could be completely wrong. To me, this was more paranormal romance with some horror aspects, but had really good social commentary on some trauma, female rage, body image, things like that. I have decided to give this a 3-star rating, if you take ratings into consideration at all. I think it was fun, it was enjoyable. The thing that kept me reading was, is Rory actually a werewolf? Because part of me was thinking maybe this is some kind of fever dream that's been created to discuss the topics that were discussed in this. But the ending really pulled it all together, and it was like a solid 3 stars for me. I'm nearly 100 pages into The Trees Grew Because I Bled There by Eric Larocca. So I've read 4 stories so far. If you don't know, this is a horror short story collection. So far, Bodies for Burning and The Trees Grew Because I Bled There have been my favourites. The second one was Bodies for Burning. It just made me so uncomfortable living in this person's head. Essentially, she just has this need in her head to set things and people on fire. Yeah, it's just really disturbing being inside her head. And then The Trees Grew Because I Bled There. I really, really loved that one. It was the most gruesome of the 4 that I've read so far, but it put it against this idea that when you love someone or you're in a relationship, especially a one-sided relationship, you give them everything you can and they give you nothing. And then in this particular relationship, the woman was like, I need something from you now, I'm going to take it. And it was disgusting parts of it, but it was just so great at the same time. But yeah, that's my update on this so far. I will say, as I said, I think when I was talking about Daphne earlier, that I just didn't expect horror to have so many levels to it. And this has just really solidified that. So I finished The Trees Grew Because I Bled There. This was a while ago now. I forgot to update you. I've been in a bit of a life slump, but I just thought I would come in and give you my final thoughts. I absolutely loved this short collection, and it was one of the first short story collections that I've read, and the fact that I loved it, I think, tells me that Eric Larocca is perhaps a go-to for me when it comes to short stories. I very nearly gave it a 5 stars. There was just, I think towards the end, there are a couple that I didn't enjoy as much as in the first half, so that changed the rating a little bit to a 4 stars overall. But really, now I've had time to sit with it and reflecting on how much I enjoyed it, I think it's actually a 4.5. The thing that I really loved about this collection is it was true horror to what I believe it to be, but also it just has all that underlying emotion of obsession and grief, love, you name it, you'll probably find it in there. And I think, as I've said in every clip about all 3 of these books, it's just not something that I expected to find in horror books. So I stand very much corrected on that, and I think it could be a new favourite genre for me. All in all, this video has been a success, and I found some really great books. And it sort of combines that fantasy that I love with what I love about literary fiction together in this sort of twisted, gruesome way. And I just really, really love it. I'm going to tell you what short stories were my favourite from this collection, and then we can wrap this video up. So I had 3 that really stood out for me and that I felt I connected to on some level. Those were Bodies Are for Burning, The Trees Grew Because I Bled There, and You're Not Supposed to Be Here. So yeah, that's the end of this challenge, the end of this video. As I just said, I think it's been really successful, and I'm really happy with the books that I read and the results. I'm really happy I decided to push myself to read books that I haven't really read from before and get out my comfort zone. If you guys who are watching this have any horror recommendations for me, please, please, please put them down below. I would love to hear them and eventually get to them, as I think I'm just entering this whole new world of books, which is really exciting. Or if you've read the ones that I've read and have different opinions or thoughts on them, or even similar thoughts, please put that down below as well. If you like this video, please give it a big like, and also subscribe so you don't miss any more uploads from me. With everything wrapped up, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.